Wow. That is all I can say. What's good, y'all? Welcome back. First video in a while. Once again, it's becoming a theme here. But I'm just gonna talk about the trade deadline. It ended about an hour and a half ago. I was in class when it ended, so I couldn't make a video on it immediately. But I'm just gonna make a immediate trade reactions to what happened. This was one of the crazier deadlines that I have been a part of, or at least that I've witnessed and then have been actually engaged in, partially because my team was also engaged in it. But I think that this was definitely one of the crazier ones in recent memory. So yeah, let's get into it. First thing, I'm going to talk about the Nuggets. They are my team. I feel like I should start off with them. I'm going to talk about them for the longest, probably. First deal that came out was the Nuggets trading for JaVale McGee. This one doesn't move the needle at all. I think it is an upgrade over who we traded. I traded Isaiah Hartenstein. It just didn't work out between us and him. He's a good young player. I think he'll be fine. I think in Cleveland he'll have more of an opportunity. He was in and out of the rotation a lot. But I think JaVale McGee is definitely an upgrade over him. I don't think that McGee's going to play a lot, if I'm being honest, because I think Paul Millsap is better than him. I think having a floor spacer off of the bench is much more important than having like a lob threat and a rim runner. But he's definitely going to play a lot. Not a lot, but he's definitely going to play because Denver's the field goal percentage inside the paint is like bottom 5 in the league. And getting a guy like McGee is good. Also, he's coming back to Denver. He's definitely a fan favorite. He's going to fit in fine. I think that was a good trade. Then obviously the big one was Aaron Gordon. And that one it didn't catch me by surprise because so for me what happened was I woke up at like 7:30. So I went go get water. I went to go to the bathroom, and then I look at my phone and I see the McGee trade happened. I was like, all right, cool. And then I go back to bed. I wake up at about 9. Then I see that Vucevic got traded, and I'll talk about that later. And then I saw Fournier got traded as well, and I was like, okay, well that Gordon's 100% gone. And it was between the Celtics and the Nuggets, and at that point I kind of knew that okay, yeah, Nuggets are getting him. And I think this one definitely moves the needle a lot. I think that this is very, very, very similar to the Jeremy Grant deal. I think that Jeremy Grant's I would say Jeremy Grant's a more polished offensive player. Aaron Gordon's still, a little raw, not raw, but he's not on ball. He's not as good as Jeremy Grant is, but he's gonna fill that role in terms of being a floor spacer, being a guy in the dunker spot, being a good lob threat, and then also being a guy to guard the bigger wings because Denver has just gotten obliterated by wing players this season, and it's been sad to see because he's a better defender this year than he was last year, miles better, but he's still a little slow laterally, so he can't keep up with wings. So look at Brandon Ingram, Kawhi, LeBron obviously, but even lesser wings like Harrison Barnes was killing us. Garrison Matthews had a really good couple games against us. And it's just guys who are just not that good were able to be really, really good against us. And I think that Aaron Gordon is definitely going to help that out a lot. I think a core four of him, Jokic, MPJ, and Murray is one of the better core fours in the league. And I think that's good. I think that it was a move that needed to be made. Unfortunately, it cost us Gary Harris and RJ Hampton. That was my fear, that we were gonna have to lose Gary Harris. I did not think that we would have pulled the trigger if RJ Hampton was in the deal, because if you guys don't know, the RJ Hampton we traded back into the first round to get him, because that's how much we liked him, and I thought that might have been a deal breaker. I thought Bol Bol was on the way out, and I was completely okay with that, but I really didn't want to give up RJ Hampton, and I feel like the front office didn't want to either. But I feel like because the deal was there and it presented itself, they were left with no choice. I think that it's good for RJ. I think he's gonna get a good opportunity in Orlando. Like I said, I'll talk about them later. But yeah, that was rough. And Gary Harris he's probably my favorite Nugget of all time. Him and Jokic in 2016, 2017, that was when I really started to watch basketball. And when he that season and the next season were when he was so good. On the ball, off the ball, defensively, he was just so good. And it sucks that he got hurt so much after that because he was on his way to becoming one of the best two-way players in the entire NBA. And you can ask any guy in the league, any guy who's connected, anybody will tell you that is what was happening. He averaged 18 a game, shooting like 50, 40, 80 in his third and fourth seasons. Like, he was so good. But I think a change of scenery was needed for him as well. He just couldn't stay healthy here. He's going to have a chance. He's going to have a year and a half to, build himself back up. And yeah, like from a basketball standpoint, I think this trade was phenomenal. I think the Nuggets did a great job in it. Getting an unproven rookie and a guy with a big contract who's been constantly injured, unfortunately. I think that it was great for them. But from an emotional standpoint, it definitely hurts. And if you're not a Nuggets fan, I guess you won't understand it. But if you are a Nuggets fan, then it did hurt. Another thing about the Nuggets, this will be the last one. I've talked about them for a while now. But another thing about the Nuggets I wanted to talk about is our pursuit of Lonzo Ball. I thought if we got Lonzo Ball, then we were going to be second in the West favorites behind the Lakers. And I think that Lonzo Ball would have been perfect. I think that he would have been able to run point. Maybe moves Murray over to the 2, which I ultimately think is going to happen regardless. I think that Murray's going to move over to the 2 and Monte Morris is going to start once he gets healthy. But I wanted Lonzo Ball so bad. I wanted him more than Aaron Gordon. I believe that Lonzo Ball moved the needle more than Aaron Gordon. And, ultimately I believe that it was a smart decision by the Pelicans to keep him. I thought it was stupid that he was on the trade block regardless. And maybe it's because of the reports that came out that, he's not happy in New Orleans, and his dad said, he needs to get out, he wants to get out, he's not going to stay. And the fact that they said he's going to command $20 million a year is definitely not a good sign. But I do think that if Nuggets were able to get him, I would have loved it. But it would have meant parting with Will Barton, which I don't think we can afford to do. But I think that was another trade that I really wanted to pull the trigger. At least somebody to get him, because he's been really, really good this season. As a playmaker, defender, shooting, he's been really good. Shooting the 3 especially, he's been really good. So, yeah, that was. I just wanted to talk about that. All right, next, I'll go quick, I guess, on these next ones. Rockets. Man, they messed everything up. I thought they messed up the Harden trade to begin with, because they didn't get Jared Allen and they didn't get Karis LeVert. Literally the only 2 key pieces that the Nets had to trade to them to get James Harden, and they didn't even get those 2. They shipped him off somewhere else for picks and then random players. And then they didn't even keep Victor Oladipo, who they ultimately traded today to Miami. And then when they traded him, they got nothing. They got Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and a pick swap. They got absolutely nothing out of that James Harden trade. And for a guy who's arguably the best player in your franchise's history, that is really, really stupid. And I feel like ownership and the front office really messed that one up. And if you're a Rockets fan, I really feel for you, because you guys really could have gotten way more. Yeah, it was just a terrible situation, because everyone knew Oladipo was going to Miami anyway. Every single sign pointed to him going to the Heat. And the Heat wanted him as well, obviously. That was the reason they traded for him. But they didn't get anything out of it. I feel like if you know he's going to leave, at least command something instead of nothing. So yeah, that was my takeaway from immediately. When they said that Oladipo got traded to Miami, I was like, well, finally. I mean, we knew it was going to happen eventually, but what was the package? And it was just nothing. And I just feel for Rockets fans, because the ownership and management really, really messed that up. Next, Bulls. I think that they won the deadline. I think getting Vucevic was fantastic, because they didn't have to give up much. They got rid of Otto Porter's massive contract. They get a legit center, and they obviously they had to swap out Wendell Carter, which hearing from Bulls fans on Twitter, I don't think was that tough of a decision. He had really been struggling this season, but I think that getting Vucevic is phenomenal. He is massively underrated. I think being in a bigger market in Chicago is really going to help him out in terms of his brand, but also just playing in Chicago is going to help him, because Chicago is such a promising team. They're so young, and they finally were able to use those young assets to get a legit player like Vucevic. Yeah, so they only had to give up, I think, 2 first-rounders and then 2 players who they were probably going to get rid of anyway, which is really nice. And I think that they really won the deadline with that deal. Oh, Jesus. So yeah, I think that Chicago really won the deadline with that deal. And then they also traded for Daniel Tice. They got Troy Brown and Daniel Tice. I wanted the Nuggets to get Troy Brown as well. I think that he would have been a really nice young wing to have. But I'm glad that Chicago got him. I think that they really did a good job. Arturas Karnisovas really did a really nice job in his first trade deadline. So solid for them. Raptors, I want to talk about them a little bit. They really handled the situation of Kyle Lowry very weird because as I'm filming this on the trade deadline day, and if you're on Twitter and stuff, then you know that Kyle Lowry was he was preparing to leave. All the footage that came out of him after they played the Nuggets, he was saying bye to staff. He was hugging teammates. It looked like he just had played his last game as a member of the Raptors. And then today there were a lot of conversations that they were talking with the Heat and the Lakers. Clippers were in there a little bit. And ultimately they didn't trade him. And I just felt like that was such a weird handling situation. Obviously Lowry is okay with staying in Toronto. But it was weird handling of the situation because they traded Norman Powell. They traded 2 or 3 other players to free up roster space in case they actually did make the trade. And then ultimately they didn't end up doing it, which was just a weird handling of the situation. But yeah, I guess speaking on the Norman Powell trade, I thought that was phenomenal for the Raptors. They did a great job getting back Gary Trent and Rodney Hood. Gary Trent, I feel like he's not better than Norman Powell. Norman Powell's having a great season. I think that's a good get for Portland. But Gary Trent, his potential as a two-way player is much higher than Norman Powell's, and I feel like that was a great get. He's a restricted free agent. They control where he goes. They control if he wants to stay or not. So I think that they did a great job in getting him out of that. For Portland, it's a good move. They get so much offensive firepower. It's a 3-guard lineup of Powell, Lillard, and McCollum. It's 3 creators, 3 shooters, 3 drivers, and that's going to be really hard to stop. Another reason why I really didn't like Denver getting rid of Gary Harris, because when Gary Harris is healthy, he's going to be a guy he has the ability to guard all 3 of those guys. Not at once, but he has the ability to go one-on-one with every single one of those guys. And, I think that the Raptors did a great job getting value out of that. So, yeah. And then Orlando, talked about it earlier. We're getting rid of Vucevic, Gordon, and Fournier. They're finally blowing it up. They got a lot of young talent. Fultz obviously hurt. Jonathan Isaac is hurt. But I think next year, when they're healthy, they're going to have a lottery pick. They got a lot of picks today from the trades. I think that it's finally good that they're blowing it up because they have been teetering on the edge of mediocrity since Dwight Howard left, basically. They made it to the playoffs a couple times, but all of us knew that there really wasn't a chance they were going to win a series that both of those seasons. So I really hate that they had to trade Vucevic because I really like him. But I think that it was the right decision to make, ultimately, blowing it up, trying to rebuild, especially in a draft class that is as stacked as this one. With all the injuries that they've had, this was a good point to blow it up. So I'm glad that they did that. I think that some other franchises should follow suit with how they handled it. So that's all that I got to say. The video's already 14 and a half minutes. But yeah, that's all I got to say on this. I'm going to make a video on, I guess, NFL free agency in a little bit. I waited a couple weeks to do something on that because of the Deshaun Watson allegations. I didn't want to say anything until that was cleared up, and it still isn't. But I'm going to get a video on NFL free agency out of the way. Talk about the Broncos, what they've done. But that's my immediate reactions. I will start to try ramping it up after finals. Finals is in about a month, but I'm going to try and upload a couple videos until then. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Comment, subscribe, like, do whatever. Peace.